sunrisenews.com. Let's bring you the rest of the day's news now. Charlotte's with me. Charlotte.
Thanks, Colin. Good morning. Generous golden goodbye payments for public sector staff are expected to be cut in an effort to make sackings cheaper for ministers. It comes as the government prepares to warn civil service bosses of the need for a tough approach to pay and conditions. The measures
Interpol headquarters in Lyon.
And anyone with information which could be relevant to Operation Infrared can email Interpol at fugitive@interpol.int or phone Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111.
Charlotte, thanks very much indeed. Well, we'll take you through the front pages of the newspapers now, shall we? And they will never take me alive. It's the Mirror's A very good morning to you. You're watching Sunrise. Colin Brazier here with you through until 9 this morning. Still to come, a review of the morning's newspapers. That will be in the company of Emma Barnett. But first, let me tell you that a man has been shot and injured. .com. Charlotte's here now. Got the rest of the day's news, Charlotte.
Thanks, Colin. Generous golden goodbye payments for public sector staff are expected to be cut in an effort to make sackings cheaper for ministers. It comes as the government prepares to warn civil service bosses of the need for a tough approach to pay and conditions. The measures could see the redundancy terms or is essential. And now to a sporting event with a difference in New York. Lots of people turned up for the annual hot dog eating competition to see if Joey Jaws Chestnut could win the title for the 4th year in a row. The 26-year-old American is ranked #1 in the world by the International Federation of Competitive Eating, and he didn't disappoint. He ate up to 54 hot dogs in 10 minutes, but he felt he could have done better.
I stopped drinking water today, so I was a little bit dehydrated going into the contest, so I was slower than I wanted to. Wanted to be in, you know, it's all right. I beat the competition. If anybody else was here, I would have beat them too.
I don't know how that could be classed as eating, though. He was just shoveling it towards his face.
He was staggeringly thin. That's the conclusion I draw from that contest.
Maybe he only eats once a year when it's the hot dog eating contest.
Fantastic. Emma Barnett from The Telegraph is going to take us through the newspapers this morning. I know you're starting with The Times, Emma, I think.
Yes, we are. There's a free online archive been created for bring together every single night that's ever happened at the proms. Oh, so people will now be able to access 7,168 nights worth of music, which has taken 2 years to compile for free. And bringing together some of the earliest performances to some of the more modern ones, including the likes of Johnny Rotten. So it should be a good collection. Well, they're bringing them together in the hope that it'll even further democratise the experience. It's you know, quite a cheap night. Actually, you can get tickets obviously from £5 upwards, but it's a good way of bringing it to more people, and it's taken a lot of painstaking work from reading about it.
And how's that made available?
If you go to bbc.co.uk proms/archive, you'll be able to access.
Always good to promote the state broadcaster. I'll get in trouble for that later. Take us on to the Mail.
On to the Mail this morning, they're talking about axe falling on plans to rebuild 700 schools. Michael Gove, the Education Minister, has announced 5 billion cuts over the next 5 years, 1 billion this year, which will fall on 700 schools will be axed in a new wave of cuts. So we slash spending by up to 40%. So they're saying there needs to be, the Tory, coalition government are saying that there needs to be all this pain now as quickly as possible to try and pave the way for what they believe will be surer spending moving forward.
I think the school building programme was in a bit of trouble even under the Labour spending plans that were for the 20% cuts. But now the pain's coming, isn't it? It really feels like it's, you know, the cuts are going to be really deep. And there's no ring fencing, even for something sensitive like education.
No, and I think also there's going to be lots of people affected in the construction industry, obviously, from that. So
there's
the jobs are going
effects, aren't they?
beyond that. Also from the Mail this morning is discussion about Keith Richards' Rolling Stones book.
What's he up to?
He's writing a book that's coming out in October, and there's already a bit of a rift coming between him and frontman Mick Jagger, because Mick does not really want this book to go live, as you may understand. He's issued a bit of a horrible snub saying, how can you really write about your life if you can't really remember it? But the Stones are sort of having a bit of a rift. Not new for them, but that should be an interesting read.
I mean, you know, they've shown such longevity as a band. I mean, you know, and they must have had their spats in the past, you know, and yet there they are.
I imagine it's so difficult to write an autobiography biography, though, to have that balancing act between putting enough juicy details in without upsetting everybody you've ever known in your life, really.
No, well, we've known each other for more than 50 years, so...
but maybe not for much longer.
Yeah, it was a big deal, £4.8 million deal, so you expected to have some
They don't need the money, that's for sure.
No.
Your paper.
Yes, my paper.
The paper
Telegraph
which you work.
Is reporting today another education story, but interestingly, A-level exams are going to be made harder, but be more spaced out like they used to be, sort of a 2-year run-up as opposed to the modular system, which was introduced by Labour, in a bid to prepare students for university. There's been several commissioned surveys by the Tories to find that people, when they get there, that students, when they get there, are not well prepared for university exams. Modular exams have lessened their attention span. So they are...
Well, most of it's just culled directly from the internet, isn't it? Digital correspondent.
Come on now. No, so I think, I mean, personally, I was one of the first people to go through the AS system, and you know, there's obviously a lot of criticism that A levels are easier as the marks go better each year.
You clearly are on the point of repudiating that opinion, aren't you?
Well, no. I mean, I think I actually preferred it because you did learn more over a broader range.
How many A levels did you get?
I got 3 full A levels and 1 AS level. But you know, every year it suits everybody to say they're getting easier as the marks get better. But it'll be interesting if they do a U-turn on this. It'll be a big effect on people.
I did the system where you did the exams right at the end, and I actually, you know, preferred that because then you just have to sort of, as long as you cram really hard right at the end of the 2 years, then that's fine. But I guess it doesn't work for everyone, does it? Because people work in different ways. So.
Well, you still cram, even when it's modular. I still did anyway.
Right. Crammers on for, where are we? Oh, divorce is catching.
Divorce is catching. This is a really interesting study even done
It was
in
one
America.
of the Sundays, actually. I'm not sure it's a completely new story.
Well, 12,000 people have been polled in America, and it finds that if your friend or a friend of a friend gets divorced, you're 75% more likely to also get divorced.
Feels true, this story, actually. Well, not from personal experience, but it just sort of logically... So much of your moral framework is set by the people around you, and if they start behaving a certain way, then people even subconsciously start to follow suit sometimes.
Well, I think you start to question, apparently, your own marriage and whether it's working out, and also apparently it has the same effects with family members as well, not just friends of friends. So if people are divorcing in your family, it's more likely for you to do the same.
It's a real shame, but I don't think we can pull it out. There's a lovely Pew cartoon next to this story to illustrate it, and there's an old biddy reading the newspaper with the headline 75% chance of divorce if your friends split, and the quotation at the bottom says, "Trust me to marry somebody who has no mates." Fantastic. Emma Barnett, thanks very much indeed. That's lovely. You're watching Sunrise on our website at skynews.com. It's on our website, skynews.com. Rundown of the rest of the day's news now. Charlotte's with me. Charlotte.
Thanks, Colin. Generous golden goodbye payments for public sector staff are expected to be cut in an effort to make sackings cheaper for ministers. It comes as the government prepares to warn civil service bosses of the need for a tough approach to pay and conditions. The measures could see the redundancy terms of
competition. If anybody else was here, I would have beat them too.
That's some doing, isn't it?
I love the fact they give him one of those boxing-style belts, but you know he doesn't try and put it on.
No, not after 54 hot dogs. I'm not surprised.
Nutter. Charlotte, thanks very much indeed. Let's take a look at what's on the front.
ToBeConfused.com.
Very good morning. You're watching Sunrise. Colin Brazier here with you through until 9 this morning. Still to come, we've got a review of this morning's newspapers. That will be with Emma Barnett. But first, let me tell you that a man who shot and injured 2 people... Visual address skynews.com. Let's bring you the rest of the day's news. Charlotte's here.
Thanks, Colin. Generous golden goodbye payments for public sector staff are expected to be cut in an effort to make sackings cheaper for ministers. It comes as the government prepares to warn civil service bosses of the need for a tough approach to pay and conditions. The measures could see the redundancy terms of...